And welcome back, everybody, to the 990 podcast. I am Jay.
I'm Ray.
And welcome to episode 20,
Episode 20.
rounding off season 2.
That's 10 more than 10.
Hey. Man, first and foremost, thank you very much, my friend. This has been quite a ride so far, huh?
Yeah. To think we started, in October? Was it October, bro?
Just about, right?
Yeah. So
It's been fast, man.
Yeah, it's fast. When I look at our YouTube page, I see the thumbnails, and it's just nice to see that you've created something. There's pride in it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you are a first-time listener, thank you very much. If you are a long-time listener, even bigger thank you.
Yeah.
But today we decided that we were going to put together some clips of our best of.
Yeah, the highlight reel.
You got it, right?
So far.
And you might be thinking, hey, these guys are already putting together a highlight reel. Who do they think they are?
Hey, man, we got 2 seasons under our belt.
Exactly. It's our podcast, so deal with it. But we've had some really, really good conversations. What's some of your favorite topics that we've covered?
My favorite topics, I want to preface this by saying, you kind of learn as you go, and our conversations, and I wouldn't say have been better. It's just we have a better flow.
Oh, definitely.
And, it's just kind of the same thing with like an NBA team. When you get new players or whatever, you learn how each other skills and work and how it complements each other. And that's how I feel like it's going. The trajectory is going.
Yeah.
And I feel like the later episodes have been more enjoyable.
Man. For sure. I've gone back and I've listened over all of our episodes. The first couple, little rough. Shout out to everybody that muscled through.
Yeah.
But the topics that we've covered have been really interesting, man. I'm just drawing back. I know one of our favorite is probably the one where we covered some of the most impactful songs in our lifetime.
I think that one just brings out a lot of memories. That's why
Definitely.
songs. I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but songs to me are connected with memories and just growing up, and those are embossed a little deeper versus other things.
For sure.
So that one is a little bit more passionate.
Yeah, man. I mean, just getting to know you a little bit more, Ray, I would say that your favorite theme above all is probably just nostalgia in general. Yeah, you're a very nostalgic person.
And you also know my favorite types of movies now.
Hey, Nicholas Sparks and Ryan Gosling.
That's gonna be my top 10 of all time.
You know it.
Those movies. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, man. We've also covered some really cool things. My passion being style and fashion. We had a really good conversation on that. Dipped a little bit into some of the business things. Talked about work-life balance, mental health. We've covered quite a bit, man.
Yeah, and this is just kind of scratching the surface.
Absolutely.
I mean, just to think of 20 episodes in now. That's minuscule compared to other, and I don't want to sound like I'm comparing, but just to what do you call it? To have a good goal.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see that it's coming along well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Another conversation that I really liked was our Christmas one.
Oh man, that was fun.
Yeah, our Christmas, and knowing that it's both of our favorites. What do you call holiday or event of the year?
You know it.
It's always a fun time, and it's gonna be a fun time for next year too.
Oh, definitely.
What was your favorite part about the Christmas one?
Truthfully, being surprised by some special guests was cool.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. But just kind of again recapping just some of our favorite childhood memories, the music, the movies, some of the traditions. I think that's something that I really enjoy talking about.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a highlight of the first half and a few.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, again, if this is your first time listening, this will definitely be the episode that I would recommend jumping to just to kind of recap everything, and it'll get us set up for season 3.
Yep. So before we start off season 3, Jao and I are gonna be heading out.
Yeah.
For some R&R, and as Joe said, not together.
I need a break from this guy.
But we're gonna go hang out with our families. Joe, you want to tell them where you're going?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna be going off to Colorado.
See,
my sister and her family live out there. It has become a second home for Tristan and I. We love it. I don't know. I've talked greatly about Hawaii weather and being a little bit hot for me. So it's going to be a nice way to just kind of cool off in some snow, hopefully.
Jeez. Oh, snow. It's still snowing out there.
It is. It's off and on. We're hoping for some snow when we're up there.
Have you snowboard before or ski?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to Breckenridge this trip, but it'll be on the agenda, hopefully.
Look at this guy spitting out cities and areas in Colorado like he lives there. Yeah. I don't know what that is.
I know. Yourself, where are we going?
We're going back to Japan.
There you go,
and it's been a
baby.
minute. This is going to be Zozo's first airplane ride.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're excited.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, yep. It's going to be fun. But so we're going to be doing some R&R coming back in April. Is
Yep.
that correct?
Yep.
For season 3. And again, guys, we're just super thankful for you guys hanging out and, people not coming up, but I'm discovering that people and friends tell me that they listen to it, and it's just nice to hear.
Absolutely.
So that's where we're at, bro.
Yeah, man. So everybody enjoy these clips.
See you guys. Peace.
Man, would be sick because Jay, as you were saying, bro, we'd probably link up maybe once or twice a month and just drink or talk story, catch up. And I was like, man, we gotta record this because it's just fun. Like, what?
I think what's dope is there's this genuine respect and candor that we have with each other because we are friends. But what's interesting is just points of view. Ray and I, we share a lot of interest, but we also have a lot of varying viewpoints on things, and it's based off of life experiences. And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to kind of tackle in this podcast. Just the different life experiences we have just based off of our age differences. We're both married, our relationships, raise a new parent, things like that. And I think these are just cool topics to talk about. These are things we would have been doing anyway without Mike. So,
right.
Here to just share with the world.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. The emoist I've been, Gio. This is back
You had bangs,
before.
right?
I had bangs.
Oh, of course you did.
I did the straightening. Yeah, I did the relaxing.
Oh shit,
bro! I was in it.
Yes.
I was so in it. I used girl pants before skinny jeans were a thing.
All right,
That's how legit it was for me.
There you go.
And I remember because shortly after these brands started coming out with skinny jeans, I'm like, we're picking those up instead of these girl jeans.
Yep, there you go.
But the emo scene was awesome. Just very, I don't know, very sad.
Very sad. What's funny now though is, I think that most people that kind of grew up in that genre, it's funny to just kind of look at, like, if you ever look at old photos of yourself.
Bro, yo, we're posting up. You gotta give me one too, so we'll post it up.
Yeah, for sure. So good stuff. But I would love to see relaxed hair Ray. That'd be great.
I always blame myself for doing that. So me and my friend Jay, his name is Jay, one of my best friends. He would relax his hair too with me.
Okay.
So we do it. But we kind of punch ourselves in the face because now I feel like it's coming to haunt us back because my hair's not as full anymore. It's not as, healthy as it should be.
Sure.
It's kind of falling off. Not literally, but like,
Yeah.
But yeah, if I could, if I could take back one thing, it would be relaxing hair back in the day.
I don't know. You ever? I would go to church every Sunday with my mom, and my sister and I, we were as devout as our options were. And at the time, I think my mom really wanted to raise us Christian, and I think that at a certain age, she gave us the choice of, like, do you want to continue this or not? And I think what was interesting was, I always loved the idea of believing that there is something more. And I always believe that if any faith can make you live your life to what you believe is righteous and as best to your abilities, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. My mom is still very faithful, and I think that it's good because it's structured her life and given her a lot of hope in moments where maybe she didn't have that. And I think that's super important.
Right.
So in that sense, I think it's really good. But again, for me personally, I don't believe you need to, and maybe this is just me
me, trying to make myself feel better about the situation. But I personally don't believe that I need to go to a structure weekly to just be able to just say like, hey, I'm thankful for the things that I have.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do that here. I can do that any day, anytime. And that's just the way that I view it.
Sure. Yeah.
But, and again, I know that might turn a lot of people off. I know I have some friends that are very religious that might be like, no, that's not how it works. And I totally agree with that. But I don't feel like it makes me less of a person to feel that way.
But it's funny because some super devout will see
exactly
yeah.
right. I mean, I think the goal, regardless of your religion, is if your goal is to just be the best version of yourself, show up, take care of your responsibilities, hold yourself accountable, and again, try to just live the best life that you can without impacting and impeding others in a negative way. That's all anybody really can ask for, right? Regardless of whatever religion you are, or if you even if you're not religious at all. If you can do these things, live within a society, and contribute and be productive and just be a good person in general. I don't see why you should draw issue with that.
That's a good basis to follow.
Actually, yeah. When I was a kid, I had a huge fear of not flying. When my mom or dad would fly on their own. So both of them were educators, and then both of my parents' families live in Oahu. We were on the Big Island. So they would fly back to Oahu frequently on their own. And there was just this, I don't want to call it irrational, but there was just always a fear that something would happen to my parents on the flight. And not that it would be any better if we were all together, but I think just the idea of them being by themselves, I didn't like that idea. And that always stayed with me. That was one of my biggest fears growing up. That, and then my dad was a pretty heavy smoker. And my sister and I just was always worried about his health. And then like a dumbass, like I started smoking. I don't it happens, right? So like you tell your dad, you hide his cigarettes, you do all of these things, and then you just end up picking up the habit at some point. Glad he kicked it.
Nice.
So both not smoking now, but it's just one of those things where again you put so much time and effort into telling someone not to do something, and then you just go ahead and do it yourself. I can't explain it. I remember those two things being very fearful though, and both of them involving my parents when I was younger.
Would you say that it still carries to this day?
Yes. One of my number one fears is sadly the inevitable. I think when I think about death, when it comes to my family, that is just something that I'm not personally prepared for. It happens to everybody. Everybody will deal with death. It's part of life, and I understand that. And I think the older I get, the more rational and mature I try to be about the subject, but it doesn't make it any easier. I'd like to think that I have a lot of time left with my family. But again, that's relative, right? Things happen, and I'm very lucky to have my family with me, but I know that time is cut short for a lot of individuals, and I think that's a huge fear of mine, just not feeling like I had enough time with them. And that's just something, again, that developed as a young kid, and even as an adult now, like really stays with me. Once again, just a unique experience, and I'm not calling it tourist. I mean, we need tourism, obviously, but I think sometimes there's this level of entitlement when people fly here. They're like, well, I'm on vacation, therefore, everything needs to be catered to me. That experience. And I'm like, yeah, bro, but not everybody here is here to serve you, right? Yeah, I know.
That's another one we could go into. But some visitors and people that vacation here, I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like on the plane they should have a video that tells you what Aloha is and what Hawaii is all about, and what you do when how to present yourself, how to conduct yourself when you're out here, because it's not like a free for all. You just don't, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Okay, so just working in Waikiki, I see so many crazy things. Something I actually mentioned to my coworker the other day was the number of people coming into the store that just look like they got the living shit beaten out of them.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. So in my head, I'm like, and it's always people that just have lost their stuff and discombobulated. And there's the human element of me like, wow, man, I hope this guy's okay. But there's also the part of me I'm like, probably deserved it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you had too much to drink. I don't know if you said the wrong thing to the wrong person. I don't know if you just were kind of just feeling entitled to something, but somebody learned you real quick. And I don't know. There's just a little level of satisfaction sometimes.
just a little
bit. Yeah, anything else. But I wonder if gender plays a role in that as well.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're the youngest sibling.
Gender and then the amount too.
Exactly, right? The age, right? So let's think about it this way. You know, like my sister is a younger sibling, so I've heard of instances where maybe the older sibling got it harder because maybe the parents were a little bit more strict, maybe they had a little bit more expectations of things, a little bit overprotective. So therefore, you know, you kind of do your trial and error with your first kid and then the second kid. It can go both ways, right? Because it could potentially be that where, they put all their eggs in one basket and then the second kid is a breeze, or it could be the complete opposite, right? Yeah. So,
and I think, I mean, as we go through these unpopular opinions, each one's always going to be like, oh, we got to dive in and figure out what's going on.
Right.
For this one, the youngest sibling, I grew up with 3. Okay. And like you said, the first one could be like, you know, a very cautious way of bringing your child and whatnot. And then the second one's kind of like, they're good, you know.
Yeah.
For us, I don't know.
How was it with you, being the youngest?
Being the youngest? Well, like you said, gender could have played a role because I'm the only boy in the family. Yeah. And like my mom's side, there's a bunch of girls. Okay. And so I don't know, that could be, I don't feel bad for myself.
Do you think just being a boy you had it easier though, or harder?
No, I think I think it was fine. I mean, it seemed like we were all equally the kind, raised and had an equal, you know, opportunity with whatever. But I don't know. This one's kind of youngest sibling. I don't feel bad for younger siblings. I don't think this is tough because like there's a lot of things that play a role in terms of how this could turn out.
100%. I mean, I think everybody's gonna have an individual experience, right?
Yeah.
So you know, going back to personal experience, I think maybe my parents might have been a little bit, I want to say maybe a little bit easier on me. The funny thing about this, and I can honestly say this with like no qualms about it, I think that my parents probably gave my sister a little bit of a harder time growing up.
Really?
But I think she probably gave them less things to worry about as she got older versus me. I might have been more of the problem child as I got older. So maybe it was good that they were a little bit stricter with her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can say that from personal experience. Yeah.
Right on. Let's move to the next one, bro. What you got for me?
Okay, this one's funny. It should be socially acceptable to celebrate when shitty people die. All right, so once again, I mean, that's a loaded question, right? Like, how shitty are we talking about here? I'll be honest, you know, like when you have people that are just in the public eye, maybe political figures, maybe it's just people that you are known to have done terrible things. You have less sympathy towards them, right? So I think it's really easy to see like, oh, I just wish that person would die. Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's one thing to say that.
Okay, I realized as we're talking, Jay, that maybe the reason why I wasn't so into movies was because I didn't grow up with cable.
Oh, what? Okay. No, talk about it, please.
So
I didn't know that.
Maybe that's why I didn't. It wasn't really a grab or a pull. I wasn't. I don't gravitate towards it because when I was younger, because we didn't have things to kind of pull us in. Okay. I remember growing up and downstairs, we live upstairs from somebody, and downstairs they had a cable, one of those cable things with the
scrambler.
Is that what it is?
Where you can get all kinds of channels.
We just plugged it in our back and like twisted it.
Oh yeah.
And we had channels.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad scolding me for that. Yeah. Not because it was bad, but because we were using downstairs.
Got it.
But anyway, I think maybe that's side note. That's probably
that
a
makes
reason
sense.
why.
Did you guys didn't have like a
You wouldn't have been Betamax era. You would have been VHS.
No, VHS. We did have VHS,
Okay.
and this is what leads me to my favorite movie growing up.
Okay.
Which is Three Ninjas.
Okay,
Three
that's a good one.
Ninjas. Yeah, is it? I'm surprised because not too much people know about it. I think, or maybe I just don't get out much.
Three Ninjas.
I thought to myself, man, one of the struggles with there's a ton of things going wrong in the world today, but I think one of the things that takes like the upper spots of that list is people not or people is okay. Let me ask this: Is there a right way to disagree, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, I the phrase "agree to disagree" is played out, but it's a valid one, right?
Yeah.
I think that whatever your viewpoint is on anything, if you come across somebody that you respect, then you're able to not lose respect for someone just because they have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where the problem lies. Where if somebody has a different idea as you, that their vision and their idea is not valid, and then therefore it makes them less of a person, or someone that is some kind of like unconsciously like against you, and that shouldn't be the case at all.
And I think that so that's exactly what I was thinking. People don't know how to disagree. They just don't know how to disagree. And I think if people start knowing how to, I mean, I don't know. I have my idea of how to do it, but if that'll be a good start. If we can learn how to disagree.
Sure, absolutely.
You don't have to be. I don't have to be right. I just want to be heard.
There you go.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Which has been true. But yeah, that's kind of one of the ways that I find super helpful. We get into we can get into heated arguments.
Yep.
What's the way that you guys resolve that?
I think for us, what's good is, again, recognizing that, we are thinking as a unit. I think that's the number one thing, right? So, again, everybody has those selfish moments where it's like, I want this and I need this. But also when you think about it from what's going to push us forward, what's going to advance us, as a household, as a unit, as a family, I think if you kind of lead with that, then you'll be able to kind of use that filter and have a better, more open perspective on things. So I think, and it's funny, like you were just talking about, just being listening. One thing Tristan does, she doesn't always listen, but one thing that she does really well is when we're in an argument, she'll stop me in my tracks and be like, "How is this productive?"
Wow.
And I know that might sound harsh, but that's what I need, because I think she's naturally more solution based than I am. Okay. So I'm a very emotional person. So I want to get out my emotions, and she'll let me do that. But after a certain point, it becomes like unproductive, because then I'm just airing out grievances, and I'm not finding out like how we move forward from this and how we make things better, or even what she can do or how we can compromise. And I think by her stopping me and just telling me like, how is this productive, or like, let's talk about solutions, and just really kind of just taking the emotions out of it, allow yourself to be emotional, and get that part out, but just kind of getting to the point where you're like, well, let's be rational about this.
Right.
What's the problem and how are we going to fix it? And we've kind of approached that. She taught me that. So she's done that to me multiple times. And there have been a few times recently where I've had to kind of stop her and been like, okay, well, what do you want to do about this? And then from there, then all of a sudden you're back on the same side instead of being on opposing sides, right? When you're in an argument, right, you're on opposing sides. And then once you get to the point of like, how are we going to fix this? Then now you're on the same side. Okay, well, this is what we got to do. And I think that's kind of been an eye opener for me. That's something she taught me. And that's something that I think is valuable, that I might not have had, in just previous relationships and, my younger years, where I think I might not have been objective to things. I just really, really went into things emotional and wasn't able to see past that.
Yeah. That's always a tough one though, because when we're in an argument, emotions get pretty heated. The voice starts to raise.
Sure.
But and I think one of the things that I learned growing up was my dad always told me to be pragmatic. I didn't realize until later on in life
Sure.
what that meant, or how to exude, or how to play that out in real life.
Yep.
But the older I got, the more less emotional I got, which was kind of I wouldn't say sad, but I think I look back in the emo days,
Okay.
and I'm like, oh shoot, like what? You're a little too emotional. So I think that's why I had that hard flip.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, that wasn't productive at all.
Sure.
It's like you're writing these things, writing these songs and whatnot, but how are you becoming better? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's those words from my dad was really helpful, because now, like what you're saying, it's like, okay, how is this productive, or how can we together? And I think that's a key thing. It's knowing we're on the same team, because it's super easy to get pulled away from the fact that you guys are one team, or you guys are one unit. Yesterday, bro. So I had a job up in Kauai, and my boss was telling me, if you don't want to go, that's totally fine. Just let me know. And I prayed about it, and I felt better after. So I told him yes. And when I say yes to someone, then that's kind of like my decision until that happens. But that whole time, the whole like 3 days prior to that, bro, I was stressing. And I'll tell you why I'm stressing is because it's that same thing. Oh, well, number one, I'm leaving out a piece of information. It was a private plane.
Okay. Is it a propeller plane or?
It had two propellers.
Two props. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are different.
Those are different. Yeah, those got two engines. Yeah.
There's a feeling when you're on that type of plane that's different.
Yeah. And so there's 2 seats up front, which is the pilot and the co-pilot, and 4 seats in the back for whoever. Prior to that, I was stressing because there's that thought of me going down, like
Sure. Oh, for sure.
And I'm not afraid of going down. I'm not afraid of the planes. My biggest fear now, Gio, is not being able to see Zozo grow up.
Yes.
That's my number one fear.
That's very valid.
And I was stressing out because if I go down, I've only seen her up to this age, and it's like, man, and that's my greatest joy right now is Zoe. And if anything tries to take that away, that's kind of like my not anxieties, but kind of my anxieties in a sense. And that's the first time I was thinking like, shoot, maybe this is what anxiety feels like, because I was stressing out because I couldn't say no anymore.
Sure.
And I was like, bro, if I do this job and we go down, what am I going down for? Like some B-roll and end up playing, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was so I think it comes along with the people who are always think they're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have that attached. I see this person being completely wrong attached with this type of person that's always feels like they're right. And yeah, I mean, no one wants to be around that person where they're always correcting you. Not that it's wrong, but there's time for correction, and if it's even a thing to correct at that moment of time.
Yes, right. I mean, like if you're in the middle of a thought and somebody's just like, well, actually, that's wrong. You're like, let me finish my thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or like when you get called out in front of other people.
Yeah.
You're like, bro, just let me live this lie. Let me get this lie off.
Come on, man. Just give me time.
Let me cook. I was about to get there.
Yeah. But yeah, man, those people are. Interruption. Let's go there. Just interrupting.
Yeah.
There's depends on what kind of interruption it is.
Well, I just told you I'm notorious for interrupting. And I think in my defense, my interruption. I'm just trying to make myself feel better here, but sometimes I feel like it forged the conversation.
Forged?
I'm trying to move the conversation forward.
Gotcha.
So like sometimes, like if I interrupt inadvertently, it's maybe because I feel like, okay, like let's either redirect or like maybe I have something else to add to this conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of it, because I do understand how frustrating that can be when you are being interrupted by somebody else. So I am trying a little bit more. I've listened to a few of these podcasts, and I do it quite a bit. So I am sorry, my friend. No, but that's a big misconception too, right? Where people are like, oh, I can't wear that. I'm like, no, you just got to find the right sizing, and you got to make sure that it's proportioned to your body.
Yeah.
Like you can have any body type and still find something flattering if you find the right fit for yourself. And
right.
That's something that's really interesting, where I've noticed my experience. I mean, and we can talk about our personal experiences with just clothing in general. But my experience growing up, a lot of times people just thought name brand and if something is expensive, therefore
Then
it's
it must be-
stylish. It must be
yeah.
stylish, right? But it didn't fit them correctly, and it didn't look good just because it had a brand name on it, or because I had a logo or whatever. It wasn't the right fit for them. You know? And I think maybe the older I got, the more I realized, like, hey, that's a really important component that things fit correctly.
What made you realize that?
Well, I mean, I've been
Or you just look at people and you look dumb.
yeah. I mean, but I think just being in, so a lot of my adult life has been in retail, and then before the job that I got right now, a lot of it was just in clothing. So because of that, and just my experiences with my business and whatnot, I've been around clothing a good portion of my life, and it's just kind of interesting watching the different trends that come through and how people follow those trends, but again, not pay attention to the way that they're fitting on their body. More just like, oh, this is cool right now. Absolutely, you can make it work, but you got to know your sizing, and you got to be willing to potentially have alterations. That's another big one too.
You know what? I think a lot of people don't know that it's possible to like take in or to hem.
Absolutely.
I just don't. Maybe it's not that important to them, which is totally fine. But at the same time, in my head, I'm just like, that would look nicer on you if it was tapered, or that would look nicer on you if it was hemmed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
there's a lot of nuances to what fear is and what it means to everybody. From a superficial level, I think about some of the things that I used to be afraid of, or maybe things that just occupied my mind, and I gave way more real estate than needed to be. You know? I have always had a fear of acceptance, if that makes sense. I think growing up, having such a loving and supporting family, I never needed validation from my family, but I always seek validation from others. Whether it's just having friends, whether it's just looking cool, having nice clothes. Very superficial things. Now that I think about it. But it stayed with me for a very long time. I look at like a lot of the decisions that I made just based off of the idea that I wanted people to perceive me a certain way.
Gotcha.
Me fearing that if they saw who I was at my core, just some of the vulnerabilities that I had, that I wouldn't be maybe as strong or as important or as cool as they thought that or as I wanted to be perceived as. You know what I mean? And again, that's something that I think I've worked through quite a bit. I look at my life now and I've looked at how much I've simplified it. And it was a conscious decision. I think that, again, this fear of acceptance and fear of validation is something that will always be with me, but the less clutter that I have in my life, the less I fear of being judged for it, if that makes sense.
What would you consider as clutter?
For me, clutter is okay. Let's just think about it from just simply a clothing standpoint.
Okay,
I've my closet is bare compared to what it used to be. From getting rid of all my shoes, getting rid of all of my clothes. We've talked about this a little bit before, and we'll talk about it probably in another pod. But I used to own a store, and then I had a lot of gear. I had a lot of stuff. I was very proud of that. I think a lot of that I felt like defined me, and then I think me realizing that it's just objects, that's just material possessions, that it didn't make me who I was. Was probably the first step in me being able to kind of let that kind of stuff go. So just when I say clutter, just physical objects I was able to get rid of.
Gotcha.
Don't get me wrong, I'm still superficial, but
we all
yeah. I still wake up in the morning to buy some shoes. But not like how I was before.
Well, what made you realize that these were just objects? It was just over time and maturity, or was it something like?
I think a lot of it was emotional maturity. A lot of it was just some trauma that kind of worked through, where I kind of had to prioritize
things in my life, like why was I holding things in such high regards?
Yeah.
Why was I holding on to people's opinions so strongly?
Yeah.
And then once I was able to kind of realize that I was doing things more for others than myself.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of able to really kind of just see through some of the BS. And then, just kind of clear, like, metaphorically, just kind of clean out my closet, right? So, yeah, again, clothes is kind of a nice catalyst as far as like, you can get rid of that kind of stuff. But there's a deeper meaning to that.
For sure, yeah.
So after the emo, how would you say, where'd your style go from there?
I just got tired of skinny jeans, bro.
Hey, man, you're like... Hey, these are getting kind of tight.
You know what's funny? It wasn't actually that. It was more people were starting to do it.
Ah, got it.
That's what drives my style.
You know how wild you are if you were the only guy wearing girls' jeans at the time, ahead of the curve. People are like, "That's Ray."
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's wearing women's jeans.
Women's
right now.
jeans, yeah.
There you go. They're like,
But
"Hey,
they
man,
didn't
what
know.
cut is that?" And you're like, "Don't worry.
Don't worry. Don't ask.
Were they all like ripped up too, or
I had a few.
Yeah.
It's so
Standard
funny 'cause-
black?
Standard black. Yeah. I mean, you got different colors. And it's funny because like you'll know if it's girl jeans if the rip is above your thigh. Those are like no go because
Gotcha.
they'll be like those are girl jeans.
Yeah. Ah,
It's
okay.
got to be knee and below.
All right.
Yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
So I thought about that stuff, but that's funny because now I think about it, that's what drove or drives my path, I guess.
Yeah. So once everybody's on that wave,
yeah,
time to move on.
Yeah, the same thing with bands, bro.
Yeah,
They can
we
start
talked
getting
about
bigger.
that. We
Yeah,
talked
did.
about that.
Into that type of fear because I couldn't remember any types of and most of what I was thinking of was maybe external things, but when I think of eternal fears like that, I grew up in the church and my dad's the music director,
Right.
and there's some sort of perception from people of how I'm supposed to act
Yes.
and present myself and all these things. And growing up, that was super hard because you don't want people to think. I guess my fear was that I would let my dad down, or because of who he was in the church and I was.
Yep.
I mean, if something came out, I've done terrible things, done lots of things, but it was hard. It was hard because I felt like it was a lot more weight compared to other people. I don't know. Maybe that's just
No. I think that's completely true. When you think about wanting to not just impress but make your parents proud of you.
Yeah.
I think that's something that most people feel,
Yeah.
I truly. And then the fear of letting them down or disappointing them, that's also very valid.
So that's a huge one because growing up, you don't wanna sin, for lack of a better word, in the church in the church field. And it felt, when I did something really bad, I felt super terrible because it's something I've had to maybe hide because I don't want.
Got it.
But at the same time, you're trying to live this life that you're supposed to live and
Right.
make your parents proud. So
Right.
down was a heavy one, and the fear of people judging me because I'm supposed to be this type of person.
Sure.
Because of my relationship with my dad and the church, that was a huge.
My observation of you, one of the reasons why I think you and I are good friends, I respect that you're a man of faith, and I probably told you this before, but I want to make sure that I make this point. I think that the way you view your faith and how important it is to you and your family and what role it plays in the way you're raising your children, but also just the way that you navigate through life. I think it's very admirable. But I also like that you're not judgmental. I like that you understand that people do have different ideas that may be outside of your faith or maybe different than the ideologies that you grew up with, and you can still respect that and still have a conversation and learn something from people. And I think that's such an important thing. And I think for me, growing up Christian with my family, It's interesting because now that I'm, not actively participating in the church, I still believe in faith, and I think it's very important. But I also do realize that there are so many things that I question, not necessarily in a negative way, but also like I'm always wanting to learn more about others. Like, why do you feel that way, or like, tell me about this, or that's interesting that like you see things that point of view. Can you explain that? And I think that's important for anybody, regardless. And I think that's something that you do that I wish more people would. I think when people get turned off on religion in general, whatever religion it is, it's because they see it as immovable. Like, this is the word, and nothing else matters. And and I do understand that is kind of the basis of faith. But I think in modern times, you need to look at it like the world is so big, and we are such a small part of it. Like, there's so much more going on outside of what we know. Right. And I think what makes us a complete human is wanting to know more about others. Right. And that's something that I really admire about you. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
That means a lot, bro.
I'll be honest. I think you're on the right track here. I know Tarantino was something that you were trying to get through that list. Christopher Nolan, also top-notch director, does not disappoint with everything that he's done. You ever go into like some of Scorsese stuff? Classic Goodfellas.
There was one recent one that he did. It was Danny DeNiro, or not Danny DeNiro.
He just made up a person here.
What's his name? DeNiro.
Robert. Yeah,
that was him and someone else. It solely based on like two.
The Irishman.
The Irishman. Yeah.
Yes.
Was that Scorsese's?
Yes, that was.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the most recent one, which is probably old by now.
But that was
who has made the most influence in your life?
Who has made the
most influence in your life?
Ooh,
yeah. That's probably a tough one too.
That's a tough one. I mean, different people at different times. I think growing up, my mom influenced me the most. I'm a mama's boy, definitely, and I think that a lot of my mom's tendencies I inherited. And, I think she's a very just extraordinary person, just highly intelligent, very artistic, very worldly. She's got so much knowledge. She's an educator, and my mom is just such a great, amazing, fascinating person. She's a very sensitive person. I definitely inherited that from her. She can be very stubborn, when very strong-willed. So when she wants her way, she'll get it or find a way to get it. My mom tends to be argumentative as well. So there are times where I'll come across a little bit stronger than people are used to me being, and that's kind of my mom coming out, I feel like. But there's always like positive intent behind it. I don't feel like my mom ever comes from a malicious place.
Oh yeah,
she tends to fight for what she believes in. Especially when she really believes something is right or true.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I think I inherited on from my mom very early. Later in life, interesting enough, kind of in my dad era now, which is interesting because my dad was my best friend growing up.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
man.
cool, bro.
Yeah,
you don't find much people saying that these days.
Yeah. Like it's funny because and it's like my parents just influenced me both so heavily. But again, early on in life, my mom. But as I get older, I'm realizing that there's so many things that my dad possesses that I want to kind of emulate.
Wow.
A lot of it is with his temperament. The way he approaches the world is just amazing.
Yeah.
He's very even-tempered. It takes so much to get my dad rattled. Like even things that would set most people off doesn't even register with him.
Yeah.
And again, I probably said this before. People might think that he's passive, but he's not. He's such a strong person. I think it's because he's so strong.
Yeah.
And so secure in who he is.
That's crazy.
He can kind of just be chill about things, things don't bother him. And there are times when I'll get so worked up about things, whether it's with work, friendships, just money, relationships, anything like that. And then I just need to put things in perspective. And I always just think about my dad, about how he handles things, and what he would do in a situation. Some of the words that he would tell me, as far as like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And that's kind of, it seems so simple to say, like it's not that big of a deal, but really things that we work up so much in our head, when you really put it in perspective, you're like,
I love that. Yeah, for sure.
It's not that big of a deal, And I think, my dad's always had family first, so that's something that I really, really look to now that I get older. I'm trying, I'm definitely never going to be, I don't know if I'll ever get to the level that he's at with, his compassion and empathy, but I definitely try, and the realistic idea of what love is or should be. It doesn't come with a lot of experience. You see things, you hear things, you watch movies, you watch TV shows, you see older couples and you see the good parts of a lot of things, but you don't always see the full picture, right?
Yeah.
And then when you kind of go through life and you have those experiences, you realize that it's like a whole paradigm. Like there's just a whole gamut of things that happen within a relationship. Good, bad, beautiful, ugly, and all of those things kind of factor into the way that you give and receive love. It's a very multifaceted thing, and I just feel like the older that you get, again, I'm not taking away from the idea of romance at all, but you start to structure things differently. Where, again, you talked about practicality, being pragmatic about things. You kind of get to the point where you want to simplify it. Love is so complicated, but if you can kind of figure out a way to simplify it and be like, hey, this makes somebody happy. How can I do more of this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. That's a perfect question to ask. Yeah.
And that's kind of the way you got to focus. And that's, I mean, truthfully, I feel like that's the key to any relationship. Again, any type of relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a coworker, whether it's your romantic partner, like, how can I make somebody's day better? Like, how can I add value to somebody's day?
Yeah.
And if you kind of approach it that way,
yeah,
you're bound for success, or at least in the right direction for success. Right. Versus like, how can I make things more complicated? How can I make things more difficult? You look at like the dreamers and the doers, right?
Yeah.
The dreamers, when you're faced with that level of work and commitment, you're like, okay, time for the next dream. Like, can I find another dream that's not going to be
requires less of that?
Exactly, exactly. Versus the doers, and then you got the doers on the flip side. And I mean, I say this because I'm a doer, right? Where what's involved.
Yeah.
But then you don't really want to dream too much because you're like, I'd rather not. It's too much work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know what's involved with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people say like, I got this idea, I'm like, oh, that's great. And then not that I try to shoot it down or put holes in it, but I try to be like as realistic as possible with them and just tell them like, hey man, did you think about this, this, and this? And as soon as I make that list and it gets to a certain number, you can kind of see it just in their face, like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And that's just sadly the reality of it. If you're willing to do all of that stuff, you're gonna, and you're passionate. If you're still passionate after all of that stuff, you're gonna make it.
I don't say something earlier on when I think, or I don't correct it earlier on.
Okay.
And I think I don't like that because, and part of that is me not. Is me skipping that explanation because I don't know how to articulate well.
So you're internalizing this feelings.
I do without knowing, and it's because I have so much in my mind that I want to say in this particular moment, but I don't want to have to deal with it because I can't formulate an efficient answer.
Okay,
and that's one of my. And sometimes that's unhealthy because, like you said, when you internalize something, it's like, I don't think it's big enough to, mention something.
Okay.
But when I do, it blows up, and I just end up, not being able to control my anger or my my feelings when the time comes.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if you would call that a trait.
No, yeah, I think that's a good example, and I think that's a lot more common and normal than you would assume.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times. Yeah, being able to express yourself clearly in a way for others to understand is really difficult.
It is, yeah.
It's a talent and it's a skill that needs to be developed like anything else, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it is again, not in a bad way or in a good way, but a lot of it is upbringing, like a lot of times, like depends on the environment that you grew up in.
Yes.
It depends on what you've learned or what you feel comfortable speaking about. And there's a lot of factors to that, but I think it's really common where people
might have something that, oh, like it's not that big of a deal, internalize it, and then wait until it becomes a huge deal. And then it just becomes like this thing where you're like, whoa, like I didn't realize you felt that way.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult on families and friends and partners, right?
Yeah. And I think I've just gotten used to it. I mean, part of the thing that helps is I'm a pretty patient person.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And it's for me, it's like you said, why should I exert this much energy for this type of outcome?
Got it.
And that's why I wait until something's worthy, I guess, for lack of a better word, to try to explain myself.
Okay.
But yeah, that internalization for me, it's there's a stereotype that men don't usually talk about their feelings. I mean, obviously that's not true for me, because I do like to talk about them when I feel that it's right.
For sure.
But for me, it's not because I'm a guy. It's because I don't think it's worth talking about unless I feel like there's weight to it.
Okay.
Which is bad, I think, because you want to be able to talk about even the small things.
Yep.
Yeah, like how one particular event could have made you feel, and keeping that in is probably not healthy.
Yeah.
But again, I think I have a good sense of what I think. But then again, this is, it's a bad thing, because what I think that I could hold, that I'm supposed to put out, could be bad, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's internalization in a bracket.
Have you ever seek like talk therapy or anything like that?
I thought about, I looked around. Mainly, the first thing I thought was, okay, does insurance cover this?
Oh yeah, no, that's like
that's the one thing.
It feels like a luxury. Everybody wanted to be Maverick. Tom Cruise was like, you can't tell me nothing. Tom Cruise was the coolest guy in the world. Val Kilmer was the coolest guy in the world back then. When I think about just a complete movie, I think about Top Gun, even to this day. And what I'm saying by that is it was an action movie. It had drama. It was funny. Like there was just this amazing dynamic just between the actors. The storyline was intriguing, and it holds weight. Like to this day, it'll be on like TNT or something, and if it's playing, I'll watch it.
How old were you when it came out?
Shoot, man. I gotta fact check exactly what year it came out, but I was pretty young.
In your teens?
No, dude. How old do you think I am?
well, how old is Top Gun?
Top Gun is old, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Like early 80s. Early 80s.
Early? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know
this
that.
guy.
I didn't know that.
Trying to date me here. Put me at like.
I'm gonna be honest. It's because I've never watched Top Gun.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
not kidding.
Not even the second one. Not even the new one.
Not even the new one. And
Dude.
that's why I'm asking.
Oh
that's
my God. Okay. All right. I'm gonna school you on this.
Wait. Let me just put a disclaimer here. I'm not a movie buff. I haven't watched. As we go along this podcast, you'll find out that I haven't watched a ton of movies that are out and have been staples in the cinema world.
Oh no, yeah, I get it. Well, okay, 1986 is when Top Gun came out. Okay. How old was I? I was young. I was about 7 or 8.
I was gonna say 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray thought I was like driving my car already. This guy.
Well, I thought Top Gun came out like late 90s or something.
No, to be as perfect as possible, and that's an impossible task, right? So again, realizing that everybody has their own story and their own narrative going on in their heads. It's helped me try to be more present and more patient. But it's again something that I'm still continually working on and struggling with at times.
Yeah. It's good to reevaluate things I need to work on, because I don't.
Yeah. Well, hey, man.
I don't.
I think what's good though is addressing it, realizing it, recognizing it, and again figuring out like if this is something that you truly want to change or work on or develop or evolve from. Like, what are the steps you got to take? And again, just talking about it is the first step.
Yeah. I love it. This conversation has been so super good, Joe. Yeah. I think Filipino household for us was disciplining. Okay. We get the slipper or we get the belt.
We had the rice. We had the rice.
You had the rice battle. You had the rice battle.
Yeah.
You and your older.
Yeah, me and my younger sister.
Younger sister.
We had the rice battle. Yeah.
They and even this is like I'm probably gonna take to my kids as well. But there's a certain age where they stopped, obviously, right?
Yep.
And of course, when people say this to get like riled up or whatever, but I'm like, obviously within reason, and you have to explain. This is the thing that people don't say. Like my parents did spank us and disciplined us, but they always talked to us after.
Yeah.
And they always made sure they understood why they did it and what we could do to not have that happen again.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Quick story on disciplining. Me and my sisters, we all got into a fight with each other.
Okay.
I don't know what it was, and my dad was just so. If it's dad, you already know something went really bad. If it was my mom, it's kind of okay. The threat level is okay.
Threat level.
Yeah, we'll be like, be like, okay, not too bad.
Yeah.
We can still get rowdy, whatever. But then when mom calls dad, you know it's done.
DEFCON 3 right there. Right?
But so dad was called. He said, "Hey, get in the room like right now." And so for some reason, something just clicked in all three of us, and we're like, we just got on the same team, and we're like, "Hey, dad called us to go. Hurry up and put up multiple pants on."
Oh,
to diminish, or to
yes,
the pants
below right there.
Yeah, so we just got on the same team. It's like camaraderie. We go inside, and I think my oldest got the first ones.
Yeah.
So right before, and my dad made us stand on the side, and we're kind of fake crying, whatever. My dad goes to my sister, "Take off your pants."
He knew.
He knew, and so we all got it, and we couldn't help but laugh at some, while it was happening. But disciplining was another part of the household.
Got you.
And if we were disciplined, it was because it was something really bad.
Right,
kind of like I want to say last year, but towards that level, yeah.
Right.
So that's another aspect of Filipino household that I grew up in.
To sacrifice, or what's the sacrifice that needs to be made in order to get something going? Man, that could look different for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And for me, it's now I'm realizing, there's a lot to sacrifice if you're setting something up.
Yes.
If you're talking about passive income.
Yeah, absolutely.
For businesses, what would you say? Because I don't know if people know or if this is something you want to share, but you were into business before.
Yes. Yeah. I was an entrepreneur. I had a small clothing boutique. And it was a very formative point of my life. I don't regret anything. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I'll leave it at that. But at the same time, like, I think it was very important because it really helped establish this version of me. And I feel like I needed to go through all of these things as far as just learning experiences and life experiences to kind of get to this point where I am the person that I am now, that I believe is probably the best version of myself, at least for the moment.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot involved. I bit off more than I could chew. It starts with a dream. You got to have an idea. And then from there, you need to be able to execute. And I think everybody has the ability to dream. Everybody is an inventor and a creator, and in their minds, the most ingenuitive person in the world. But how many people are willing to really put that pen down and then figure out next steps of how you're going to execute this? Like, how many people will actually build a business plan? Think about like 5 years down the road. How many people think about like, okay, what is it going to take to start this up? What are my goals? What are my benchmarks? How am I going to gauge progress? What are the metrics that I need to look at monthly and daily to be able to ensure that this is successful? At what point is there a break even? Like, if I'm in the hole and I'm continually losing money, is there a break even point where I'm going to start turning a profit?
Yeah.
How much am I willing to put myself into a financial situation until enough's enough, or until I start seeing, the fruits of my labor? These are things that I think a lot of people don't think about when they have these ideas, because honestly, it's the killer of dreams.
Oh, it is.
It is, like, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it.
No.
People make runs and they come up with these phenomenal ideas, and they're able to execute, and they make
they make money. They make money doing the things that they love, and I there's so much appreciation for people that can do that. For me personally, I think the biggest lesson that I learned from this is that I just need consistency in my life. I think when I was being an entrepreneur, it was really, really tough because there's just a level of uncertainty, mainly just financially. But, you know, every decision you make is now tied to this business.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's, you know, hey, this level of commitment to time, whether it's sacrifices financially, or whether it's like, I cannot do this because I have to do this. There's just push-pull relationship that you just have with your business, and you're tethered to it, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, without going into all the details, like for me, I think they got to a point where this thing that was supposed to be so much fun, it wasn't fun anymore at all. I wasn't enjoying it. And, you know, maybe that was really immature for me to think about it that way. You know, I think everybody thinks that if you have a passion behind something and you put everything into it, that you should have fun while doing it. And truthfully, it's not fun. It's not always fun. I think once you get to the point where you're able to really see some of the benefits of that work that you've put in, maybe then it gets fun. But even then, there's other problems you got to worry about. Like, how am I going to continue this? How am I going to sustain this? You know? And there was a lot that was involved. I think when I walked away from everything, you know, I was probably at my lowest, not just financially, but just mentally. It was draining, you know, like physically and mentally, I just wasn't healthy. You know, I think that was not a good point for me. And it took me a long time to kind of just get back on track. And then I think the reason why I appreciate the job that I have now so much is it really helped me. It sustained me, not just financially, but it just surrounded me with people that made me feel whole again. You know, I've shared this multiple times, but, you know, I met my wife through that work. And, you know, I've met just you know, I've met so many important people in my life that have impacted me positively. But these are the things that I wouldn't have been able to have when I was running my business. Because now what it allows me to do is, now that I know that financially I'm taken care of, I'm able to focus more on other things. You know, I have more time for myself. I have more time for others. I'm able to just say like, okay, that is work and this is my personal life. You know, just having that line of separation where it's not blended together. When you own a business, it's all one. It's a marriage.
You're never clocked out.
You're never clocked out. It's 24/7. Funny story about this song. Did you ever, I don't know if you saw the video. I don't know if you were too young for the video or if you remember the video.
I may have looked it up sometime.
Okay, so the video has Stacey Dash in it. You probably not gonna remember this name. Stacey Dash was that girl back then. She is she's still gorgeous, by the way, but kind of went down a weird path, like kind of this weird right-wing conspiracy theorist bag, and she's kind of, you know, unfortunately kind of dragged her name as well. But back then she was the girl, and this is the funniest story. So in the video, she's very prevalent, and the reason why, aside from her just being drop dead gorgeous, is that her nipples are just popping out the entire video. I was like, wow, man,
I didn't watch that.
Really cold in this airport, but turn it up. Like, so anyway, so you know, watching the video, that is the first thing most people will be like, hey, okay. You know, like it's pretty hard to miss. So I remember on Twitter, and this is back in the Twitter heyday, I was just kind of going back and forth with my boy Ty, and for whatever reason, Kanye came up, and we were just kind of talking back and forth, and then we this is again through Twitter. We tagged Stacey Dash in it and just said something like, "Oh, I wonder how Stacey Dash and her nipples are doing." And she wrote back to us and literally said like, "I'm doing fine, and so are my nipples."
Oh, what?
And you know what? This is like before screenshots were a thing. Because I swear to God, if I could have screenshot that, I would literally just have that as my profile pic and probably just kept that for the rest of my life. It really did happen though, but it was just kind of one of those really, really funny stories. But the power of the internet.
That's crazy. Oh, that would have been the Stoke day.
Culture clashed with your American upbringing.
Oh, this is a good one. No, not really.
Not really. No. I mean, and again, I think everybody has a unique experience, right?
Yeah. I know some people that go hard for the culture, and I think that's good. For me, I don't know, man. I think Hawaii is just a special place for being just not dumb, for coming into.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful that it was Hawaii, because again, there's just the culture, the mixed culture is just so like underrated.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere else. And
I just think about young Ray, if he had been living on the East Coast or on the mainland US, where maybe your family just felt truly as a minority, how that would have affected not just your psyche, but just it'd be curious to see what your relationship would be to your culture.
That's
if,
so good.
Like if everything else was so different and opposing.
That's so good.
Like I'm wondering how that would have been.
That's a good thought, bro. And the story I think about is when we went on tour with the bandmates, and we were in like some room.
Shameless plug. Ray used to be in a band.
Oh yeah,
yeah. What was your band called?
Well, there are multiple ones, but the band that I went with, who asked me to sing for them, was called All Heart. They're a pop punk band. Back in 2010,
nice.
Around that time. But they asked me to sing for them because they needed a singer at that time, and they're going straight to tour.
Okay.
And we're finishing up an album, and they're like, "Yo, we gotta finish lyrics." I listen to it now, and it's like, not so good, bro. It's so corny. Sorry, guys. But so we went on tour, and the story I think about is when we went to like some like middle, what do you call, one of those weird like
Middle America.
Yeah, Middle America states, and we walked into like this diner, and you can just feel the whole room just turn. Like they're not actually turned, but you can feel that there's some type of like atmosphere. And I don't know, maybe it's because like my boys had tattoos and we're just rowdy kids. Maybe it was that, but it felt more of like a kind of like a weirder energy or vibe, however you want to call it. But I think of that story and learning that out, bro. I was so close-minded in terms of like racism when I was growing up. I mean, even as a kid though, I didn't really think about that stuff because growing up here, we don't really feel it. Yeah. But when we went to the mainland and when I started going there, oh man, you can immediately tell that it's alive there.
I feel like it's. I feel like it's one of those unfortunate life lessons that is important, if that makes sense, right? Like you want to be idealistic and feel like you would be accepted any door you walk into, but truthfully, I feel that it's important to know what that feels like so that you can empathize and sympathize with others better. And again, growing up in Hawaii, it's just such a different experience for us because you don't know what it feels like to be a minority.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it, bro.
Everybody looks similar, and then you go somewhere where you're the only one that looks the way you do. It's a completely different life there.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think in the mainland, now that I think of it, I think I would be more inclined to learn or to learn my language growing up at that time. Reese Roper, who is just like a really fantastic songwriter, there's the lyrics. I think what resonates with me is the lyrics, and it goes, let me just read it off real quick. This is like the bridge to the last part. Okay. Man versus himself, man versus machine, man versus the world, mankind versus me. The struggles go on. The wisdom I lack, the burdens keep piling up on my back. So hard to breathe, to take the next step. The mountain is high, I wait in the depths. Yearning for grace and hoping for peace. Hoping for peace, dear God, increase. Healing hands of God, have mercy on our unclean souls once again. Jesus Christ, light of the world, burning bright within our hearts forever. Freedom means love without condition, without a beginning or an end. Here's my heart, let it be forever yours. Only you can make every new day seem so new. And so the reason why, fun fact, if I haven't listened to the song in months or years, I always cry when I hear this portion of the song. It's just so heavy, like heavily ingrained in my memory. And Yeah, man, this song is just that line, freedom means love without condition. It's just, I felt that throughout my time in my faith and in my church from a lot of people. And I'm so thankful for the place that I was in, because there's a lot of wrong and false representation of who God is.
Okay.
At least from my understanding from others, and I felt this line over and over again throughout my life, and it's just always been a part of me. And when I hear this, I'm just like, man, I wish people would represent him better. Gotcha. or represent that love better or whatnot.
So, there's value to both. I mean, bad stuff happens in the world. There have been a lot of horrific things that have happened that have kind of shaped not just our nation and our society, but but at the same time, is it important that we know about these things? Absolutely. I think a lot of times we like to just kind of gloss over the bad, and you kind of just celebrate the good that maybe came out of the bad. But really, I think that there are a lot of stories that need to be told, so there really should be more backlash for inaccuracies.
It's funny because while you're explaining that, I'm thinking about how the printing press was such a huge part of getting the news out and whatnot, and how important that was. But then I'm thinking, like, man, if there were inaccuracies of when they printed and it's already out, like you said, you can't go back.
And of course, it adds a layer of complexity to things. But I think even though my parents had my sister and I, more so than love, they've always had a respect for each other. And I think love is just such an idealistic thing that I truly believe is the most important. But you also have to respect your partner, because if you don't, you can love them as much as you want, but if you don't respect them, you're gonna mistreat them at some point, right? If you think you can just get away with treating them or saying whatever you want and not realizing how it's going to impact them, that's going to be a red flag at some point, right?
That's so good, bro, because I've never thought about I think because it might just be so natural to us, like it's a given. But then if you make it aware, like, if for people that, or for some couples that might have a hard time communicating, that aspect, I think that would be so helpful to me. If just know, I mean, it is helpful to be aware of just respecting my partner, Joss. But it's hard because you're not really aware of that while things are heated.
Right.
But that's such a good practical way of tackling heated arguments.
Absolutely. Yeah. If no matter how mad you get at somebody, how frustrated you get at somebody, if you respect that person, you're gonna number one, hear them out, and you're gonna also try to empathize, and from there, again, try to get to a solution point, right? Where if this is how you feel and this is how I feel, and even if we're at an impasse and we're not seeing eye to eye, if we respect each other, we're going to try to get past this somehow. So, whoever wants to make the first move, we're going to go ahead, and again, we got to get back on the same page. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, man, I think about group projects.
Okay. Speak on that.
Do they realize they're not contributing, or?
Well, okay, so you have people that just coast by, and you have other people that feel more self-important than they actually are. So if you talk about a group project, again, greater good, you're talking about something where you would hope there's an equal contribution, right?
Yeah.
But it's never that case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In life.
Yeah.
School, work, friendships, family. You would
potlucks.
Hope. Can we go into that?
We can.
All right, man.
We got.
What's your okay?
We have a name for them.
What?
Aku birds.
Oh yeah. Okay. Can you explain that?
They just come and they just pick off. It's non-contributors. That's what they are.
Yeah, man.
Non-contributors.
You ever been to like a potluck and then just someone just rolls up and you're just like, cool, what'd you bring?
My presents.
Yeah, exactly.
Work, it happens quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. We recently tried to do some some potlucks.
Okay.
And yeah. I think two people brought food, me being one of them.
just napkins and rice.
Guess who had to buy their own lunch that day? I was like, I'm pretty sure I brought food, but no, let me just go buy lunch.
Oh,
Doesn't have anything here.
That's tough, man. The month of December is always nice, Joe, for me. I for one, am a big fan of Christmas.
Yeah,
I love Christmas.
Is this your favorite holiday?
Oh yeah, by far.
Mine's too.
Yeah,
Mine's too. You know,
by far.
Sometimes they give you the choice, like, you rather have Thanksgiving off or Christmas? I'm like, is that even a question, fool? Yes, I want Christmas off.
Do you know anyone that doesn't like Christmas?
The Grinch. I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody that doesn't like Christmas. I mean, maybe
Well
I
played.
don't know. Maybe if you don't celebrate Christmas, I get it. But if you do
Sure.
celebrate, yeah,
I
I'm
know.
pretty sure.
I know one person that doesn't like it.
Yeah, who's that?
And when, we won't name names, but starts with a B. Starts with a B.
Okay.
Yo, shouts out, Brittany Cruz.
You just named them.
Cruz, if you're listening to this, I miss you out here.
Yeah. But do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie?
You can't ask me that, Joe.
If you have not seen Die Hard, you need to get out of here right now.
Does Die Hard 7 count, or what's the last one? What I've only seen like the 6th, 5th. I don't know what it was.
The one with Samuel Jackson? You didn't even see that one?
No,
Oh.
the one where he saves his daughter.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's like, yeah.
I'm in the boat at least.
No. Was Bruce Willis still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Die Hard 1. Okay,
Yeah.
so Die Hard 1, there's this argument online, and everybody's either for it or against it of if it is a Christmas movie or not. And I'm a hardcore proponent of it is, mainly because it takes place on Christmas Eve. Okay.
How can it not be then?
Right. It takes place on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve. At the spoiler alert. I mean, you know, again, movie is ancient, so if you haven't seen it already, tough shit. But Bruce Willis's character, John McClane, he's a cop, and he's on his way from New York to L.A. His estranged wife is out there. She invited him out there, and he is basically trying to save his marriage. So, what's more Christmas than trying to save your marriage, man?
Now I have to watch it.
It's like a Christmas miracle, and I mean, shenanigans ensue, and multiple lives are lost. There are some classic lines in there that I will let you watch and
Sounds
interpret.
exciting.
But it's a great action movie, but 100% a Christmas movie.
This is the first one.
The first one,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But now you got a ton of people who's into anime.
Huge.
So
Again, there's fandom, and then there's the overly enthusiastic fandom.
oh yes, yeah.
I mean, I've been to Comic-Con twice, bro. I went into the Heart of Darkness, and
Or
I went willingly, right? So
Yeah, there you go.
I forced Tristan.
Oh, yeah.
I forced Tristan to come with me, but you got to remember, I went entirely on my own accord. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to see this, and I think I'm a pretty big fan. I mean, I'm a self-proclaimed comic book nerd. You know,
Yeah.
I love the movies. I love the source material.
Yeah.
When I went there, I realized that my level of fandom did not even register.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy, right?
And there's a merit to being that excited about anything. But at some point, you also think to yourself, like, man, like, how do you have so much time to
How do you
dedicate?
get there? How do you get there?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Or I think for me more was like, how do you have so much time to dedicate to one specific thing?
Passion, man.
Passion, for sure.
In a quick scan, it would be the year that I got married.
Okay.
Only because it represented a lot of things and a lot of a new season, I guess, and a new version, I guess. It was kind of like the start of really who I thought I should be when I was younger.
Yeah.
And going back to that fight for, good values and not, I was just kind of tippy-toeing between each, one. And I think when I got married, that's when I was like all in terms of, just being who I thought I meant to be and who I thought I envisioned myself as. And of course, there's a lot of things I need to work on, as everyone does. But for the most part, these days, I like to think that year and that start of the marriage really propelled me to who I am. I think I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. 5 years, right?
5 years. Yeah,
hey, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then when, I think you just get refined each time. Put through the fire, refine. It's a process of refinement. Yeah,
there you go.
But 2018, yeah,
you are in a different age bracket.
Yeah.
I don't get carded anytime I buy alcohol.
Really?
Never.
Oh,
never.
You need the Asian face.
I don't know, dude. I'm okay. So the other day, I'm not kidding. I don't know if the lady was blind or I don't know if I just look old. Okay, so she was helping me, and this is at Foodland, and she was the nicest woman. A little bit older, but she asked me if I was a senior. She asked me if I had a senior, like if I got a senior discount.
What?
And I don't know if
Trish is gonna love this.
I don't know if she didn't clean her glasses that day, or if I just look wild. But she kind of, maybe she just asked that to everybody. But I was like, lady, you just ruined my day,
my year.
But yeah, it's happening, man. It's happening.
We gotta follow up on that. We gotta.
Gifts are tough because, again, I think I put a lot of time and oftentimes stress out about it. Kind of takes away from it once it becomes a stressor, right? Like, oh man, again, I'm feeling pressure to outdo myself.
Yeah.
I think that's why anniversaries have always been tough for me. Like I remember back in the day, I would always try to outdo myself every year, and that got really stressful. It got really expensive. And again, when you kind of really look at like the psychology behind that, that's kind of your ego talking, because you want to impress somebody or you want to create a feeling, but like it's not necessarily like the response that you're getting from the person. You're fabricating in that your head, like, if I get them this is how they're gonna feel. But
interesting,
like it doesn't always translate that way, and sometimes you can set yourself up for failure as well.
Are you talking about like the like with Triss in the long run, or
just in general? I mean, even with previous relationships, I remember like, there's a time where like I think you think to yourself like, okay, I got this last year, like I got to get something more expensive or bigger or grander, right? And then it gets to a point where like, again, that ego of yours is telling you like, I need to do this, but the other person isn't asking for that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Don't get me wrong. There's some people that expect the most grandest of things, and that's a whole different story. But sometimes, like when there is, genuine thought put into a gift, it doesn't matter how expensive it is or how big it is or how fancy it is. It's really like, wow, you really thought about, put some thought into this, or you thought of me when you picked this out, or you made this, or you said this, or whatever, and those are always going to be the best gifts. So I'm trying to like, again, going back to that idea of simplifying things, I've tried to kind of simplify the gift giving as well. Plot twist, this is actually Ray and his first girlfriend.
That'd be hilarious.
He's like, God damn it.
Dude, I'm going back to my 2007 friends and asking who that couple was, bro.
Hey man,
I'm gonna figure out, Joe.
Find that yearbook, and I guarantee they are doing very well.
Yeah,
I hope so.
2-3 kids, own a home here in Hawaii. Yeah,
there you go. Shout out to them. All right, everybody. Till next time. Peace.